when you really get into the acceleration, is it actually going to kick into the hydrogen system? So let's see if we can get that to happen here. Didn't take much. I'm wide open throttle, and then if you heard that chime, what the vehicle did is it went from the EV driving mode to what they call. Welcome to Drive Culture. I'm Jonathan Rivers, and today we have the 2025 Honda CR-V FCEV. And I'm going to tell you why this is one of the most unique powertrains on the market today. So we'll go over the exterior, the interior, the powertrain, and of course, take it for a drive. So if this is content you're after or you're new to the channel, please be sure to click that bell to subscribe to come back for more. And with that, let's get after it. Now, this 2025 Honda CR-V is truly a special trim in the lineup. So special that it's actually only sold here in California. To take it a step further, it's actually only sold in certain parts of California that are nearby hydrogen fueling stations. So needless to say, this thing is essentially a unicorn, right? You're not going to see this across the country. And even here in California, it's still a pretty rare sight on the roads. But it's so unique that we wanted to bring it to the channel and make it our first hydrogen vehicle. But just not that, the world's first plug-in hydrogen vehicle here on Drive Culture. So we're happy to go through all the details. So let's talk again pricing right off the bat, where this falls in line. So clearly this is the most expensive CR-V you can buy, right? So the MSRP stated on the website is $50,000, right? So it's definitely not cheap. The catch-22 to all this is that if you were to actually go and lease the vehicle through your dealership, they're going to give you a pretty aggressive price, maybe to the point where you can't say no. Now, the other thing, there's a lot of incentives involved with whether it's an electric vehicle or a hydrogen vehicle, but in this particular vehicle's case, Honda will also give you a fuel card for the hydrogen for $15,000 right now. And that's, applicable. You can use that over I think a 3-year period, right? So, hydrogen is not cheap to go ahead and refuel, but the fact that they're giving you that's a pretty, nice incentive. In addition to that, considering you're going to be here in California, you also get access to the HOV, high occupancy vehicle lane, right? The carpool lane, as they call it. So you could get those stickers on this car as well. So lots of incentives to help offset that kind of very expensive initial price. But not only that, this car looks and feels different than any of the other CR-Vs in the lineup, including the really popular hybrid CR-V, which we also have videos here on Drive Culture. So if you haven't watched that one, be sure to like and watch that video as well. But let's go ahead and jump right into the exterior details of what makes this FCEV so special. So let's talk about the color. Right now, this, to be fair, is available on other CR-Vs and other Honda models. It's actually called Meteorite Gray Metallic. It's a really dark color that only recently came into the Honda lineup in the last 1 to 2 years. But I think it looks really good here on this FCEV, right? Fuel cell EV CR-V. Now, one of the things is the entire front fascia here is different than any other CR-V on the road. To the point where, even though this is kind of a mainstream vehicle, I was getting all kinds of double takes, people turning their heads to kind of figure out what this is, because it looks totally different than the normal CR-V front fascia. So what we're working with here are still the same premium LED headlights. That hasn't changed. You still have this nice kind of chrome brow that goes across the front. You got the big 3D H logo there, so the Honda logo looks really nice. But down below, this whole front fascia is so different, right? Previously you kind of had this honeycomb grille that kind of went down to the lower fascia. That goes away, and you just have these horizontal slats that look really, really clean, and a much bigger front fascia opening. You also have some functional opening down below, as well as here on the sides. And as far as feature content, there's even 4 parking sensors up front. But outside of that, it just makes the car look totally different. So let us know down in the comments, do you guys like the look of this FCEV, or do you like the look of the regular CR-V front fascia? So I kind of like this one, but let us know what you guys think. So let's make our way onto the side of the vehicle. There's a couple other, kind of small changes from other CRV models. So there's a different wheel on here. You got an 18-inch gloss black wheel. And again, given that this car is trying to maximize fuel efficiency in every way possible, you have, a very aggressive eco tire here. It's actually a 235 60R 18 wheel and tire package on here. And again, it's totally geared towards fuel efficiency. On the side, this is actually a door for the charger. So we're going to go ahead and push and open that up. And what you're going to see is a CCS, right? The combined charging system port. So all of you that have level 2 chargers either at home or have charged out in the public on a level 2 charger, that's right. You can plug it right here into that CRV FCEV. And what's interesting is there's also this little button here that you have to push to unlock the cable once it's plugged in. So that's a pretty unique thing that's going on here. But beyond that, and we'll talk a little bit more about the powertrain later, but I want to cover this now. Not only can you charge up this vehicle, right, as basically a BEV, a battery electric vehicle, you can actually have this dongle, this adapter that will allow you to take energy and electricity off of the vehicle and charge other goods. You can actually give up to 1,500 watts of power off of this thing. So, let's say you're out camping, you can power your lights, your microwave, your TV. I mean, you can go all in, and it's really cool that that just comes with the car. So very nice technology there. Outside of that, though, from a side profile perspective, it looks pretty much like any other CRV. You got the gloss black mirrors, the LED turn signals, you got the chrome finish around the window molding. But other than that, there's really not a whole lot of differences. Again, in the back, you're still going to have another door here, which is just for your fuel. I actually got to push the button on the inside to unlock that. But it's kind of unique, right? You got your electricity door up front, you got your fuel door in the rear. They're both on this driver's side of the vehicle. But let's make our way to the rear, where there's actually a pretty big departure in design compared to the other CRVs. And right off the bat, it should be noticeable because one of the most iconic things about the CRV are these vertical tail lamps. And if you look, you're gonna go, wait a minute, I've never seen that before. That's right. This is the first time Honda's ever done a clear tail light design for the CRV, and it's only on this FCEV trim. You're not gonna see it on any of the other CRVs. I'm sure, again, this causes people to look back and go, wait a minute, did that like guy, change his tail lights? Did he go like Altezza style here, right? So let us know your guys' thoughts and comments down below. Do you like the clear lenses here? It even carries over here to the brake lamps. I think it looks really premium. Maybe they'll consider putting it on future versions of CRV as well. But as we make our way around, outside of that is very familiar with the CRV. You got the prominent H badge up here against this black background, looks really nice. You do get the CRV badge here. Now, one of the things about this vehicle, and we'll talk about it more in the powertrain, is that it's actually only two-wheel drive. It's only front-wheel drive, so there's no all-wheel drive badges back here. But you do get the FCEV, fuel cell EV badging, and then Honda's badging in front of that, which they've now put on several of their electrified vehicles in the lineup. But outside of that, the lower fascia is also different, right? There's no exposed exhaust, right? This is all about basically being an electric, hydrogen powered vehicle. But you do get the 4 parking sensors and a multi-angle rear view camera back here as well. So I think we've covered just about all the exterior details on this car. So next, let's go ahead and hop inside to talk about the interior. All right, guys, here we are inside this Honda CRV FCEV. Now, there are some key differences compared to the other CRVs in the lineup, and we're going to try to cover everything right now. So, first and foremost, let's just talk about the steering wheel. So, it's a nice, leather wrap steering wheel, kind of chunky, kind of typical Honda wheel these days. Has your volume controls on the left, all your safety and ADAS controls on the right. But given that Honda tries to position this at the top of the lineup, considering it's the most expensive CRV they make, it does have some premium features in here. So it actually comes with the heated steering wheel with that button down here in the center spoke of the steering wheel. So that's a really nice feature. The other thing, and we'll talk about how they work, is there are these massive paddle shifters here. There's a minus on the left side and a plus on the right side, but they're really high quality, feel like they're actual metal, and they're very big in size. But we'll talk about what they do and how they function during the drive. Outside of that, as you kind of look across the dash, while it still carries that like honeycomb mesh design that started with the Civic and is on other CRV trims, what's different is this insert right here that goes across the dash, and actually along here alongside the doors, it's like a bright silver finish, which is different from any of the other CRV trims. So it gives it kind of a little bit bright work. It looks pretty premium inside, so definitely a nice touch. Other than that, you know, you still get the 9-inch color touchscreen with wireless CarPlay and Android Auto, which is carried over from the top CRV trims. You also get a 10.2-inch digital instrument cluster with nice graphics and some that are specific to this vehicle, given that it has that EV capability. So it calls out things like your electric driving range, the regen, things like that. So some pretty nice graphics on that screen as well. Also, as we look at this center console, this is a pretty big departure from any other CRV trim. The reason why is that most of them have that mechanical, you know, park, reverse, neutral drive lever. This one actually has a shift by wire, right? So the push button style gear selector, which totally changes this center layout. And to kind of like make things different, there's this nice like silver trim piece that carries around this entire area, makes it look a little bit more premium. Next to your gear selector, you have an electronic parking brake with brake hold. You have your drive modes, which we'll cover during the drive. A little button here, E, for your battery, which we'll also talk about that. And a hill descent control button with an easy access. So really, really nice layout here. Big cubby space with a wireless charge pad, and above it you get a USB-A for data and a USB-C for charging, as well, of course, as a 12-volt socket. The standard like Honda HVAC controls for your climate, really nice, you know, switch gear here, lots of buttons, and there are 3-stage heated seats. So let's talk about the seats here. What's different and, you know, kind of stands out from the other CRVs is you don't get that kind of orange stitching that's on some of the other CRV trims. Essentially, it is still the same seat design and feels the same as the others, but one unique thing about this car is they use what they call the bio suede, like this bio suede material, right? Again, this vehicle is all about being eco-friendly and eco-conscious, so the seat material is actually different to kind of offset that. So that's a really nice feature. You got cup holders here, little place to store some goods. Inside, decent center console areas, no compromise there. So that's really nice. And you do get memory seating for the driver, which is 8-way, power on the driver's side, 4-way on the passenger. Again, pretty good feature set. Like I always talk about audio. I love it. It does have that 12-speaker Bose premium sound system in this car, so they didn't skimp out on that. Really nice feature there. One thing that's different, though, along the roof, though, there is no kind of, you know, moonroof, let alone panoramic moonroof. It's all closed off. I'm sure a lot of that was done to reduce weight, again, to help improve efficiency. Let us know down in the comments, though, is that a deal breaker for you? I've been driving without it. Hasn't bothered me so much, but with that, I think we covered everything in the front. So next, let's go ahead and hop in the second row. All right, here we are in the second row of the CRV FCEV. And just like the other CRVs in the lineup, it's a really spacious place to be. Good materials that carry over from the front doors as well. You get that new kind of silver accent wrapped in piano black. You got the speakers in here for the 12-speaker Bose premium sound system. And what's nice is actually like molded into the door. It actually says CRV, so that's a nice little touch there. You still get that same bio material for the leather in the back, so still carries over there. You get one matte pocket back here. You do have vents that can adjust the fan, but that's the only adjustment you get. And there's 2 USB-C ports back here for charging, which is a nice feature. And what's also nice too is that there's really no hump here in the middle. So, you know, they did a great job of packaging all of that fancy hydrogen tech. And in fact, let's just talk about it. So this car actually has like two rather large hydrogen tanks inside. And what they did is they put one of them here kind of under the second row seats. You can't see it, you can't access it, but you're basically sitting on top of it. And then the second kind of smaller tank actually does go into the back cargo space, and we'll show you what that looks like here in a second. But even with having all that, they were able to create a very good packaging back here. There's no big hump in the floor. It's still truly a 5-passenger vehicle. You still get this kind of center armrest that can pull down with 2 cup holders inside. And then as always, we have this booster seat back here to give you an idea of how much space you have. And even for me, I'm 5'10", you know, this is my actual driver position. I've got tons of knee room, tons of headroom. Again, you could easily fit 3 adults back here, no problem. So with that, next, let's go ahead and talk about the cargo space. All right, next, let's go ahead and talk about the cargo space of this Honda CR-V FCEV. Now, again, like I said, this is basically the new top trim in the CR-V lineup, so it has all the features, right? And one of them is the hands-free access power tailgate. So as long as you got the key fob on you, you're supposed to be able to kick underneath the bumper to have the power tailgate open up. The idea is you got things in your hand and you don't want to put them down. Go ahead and give it another try. See if that works. So again, takes a little bit of getting used to, but it does open right up. Now, inside the cargo space, as I mentioned in the interior, there is a little bit of a compromise to the overall packaging due to the fact that you have that second hydrogen tank hidden behind here. So what they did is actually really good engineering. Essentially, they created this kind of 2-tier rear cargo space for the vehicle. So up top, you have this, you know, very nice hard surface that is carpeted, so it feels really good. And then this front half here actually has these latches, and you can not only lift it up and fold it, but this piece essentially like is removable. It actually comes out. So that's pretty nice, but it can just flip over on its side as well. Down below, there's also pretty good space back here, but you'll see it's kind of walled off because, again, they're hiding that second hydrogen tank back there. But even with that, with the rear seats up, they are a 60/40 folding rear seat. There's 25.2 cubic feet of space. And if you were to fold those seats down, that grows to 61 cubic feet of space. So, and again, it is a little bit lower volume than you get with a standard CR-V, but considering they package all that tech in the car, I think it's a pretty good compromise. So next, let's go ahead and talk about the powertrain. All right, next, let's talk about the powertrain of this Honda CR-V FCEV. So there's a lot going on here, guys. It's a very, very complicated system, but luckily, you know, when you drive it, you don't actually know that all this technology, all this stuff is happening right beneath you here. But let's try to do a quick deep dive into what's going on here. So instead of looking at any kind of engine, essentially what we're looking at here is a fuel cell stack. That's right, this is a fuel cell stack that was co-developed between Honda and General Motors. They've been in collaboration for a very long time, and this is like the newest generation that's put into this vehicle. So essentially what you got going on here is you got this huge fuel cell stack up front, and then you have those massive hydrogen tanks inside the vehicle, one behind the second row, and then the other one under the second row seats. So essentially what's happening is the gas, the hydrogen gas in those tanks is being circulated through this fuel cell stack, which then creates energy and powers the electric motors, right, which drive the front 2 wheels, right? So like I said, this isn't all-wheel drive. Combine that with a single-speed transmission, it's a very, very complicated powertrain. That battery that is actually also on board the vehicle that can be charged, right, at even a level 2 charger, that's a 17.7 kilowatt hour lithium ion battery that's on board the vehicle as well. So essentially, you know, you're gonna go to the hydrogen refueling station, you're gonna go ahead and open that port, plug it in, You know, it only takes about 5 minutes to fill up with hydrogen, you know, assuming the station's up and running. And so there you're going to have your range for the hydrogen. But like I said, that can be used, you know, either on its own, or you can add further range by charging up the vehicle. And by doing so, it charges pretty quick, guys, right? Even with the public level 2 charger, in just a couple hours, it's going to go from the lowest range all the way to the full, which, you know, Honda states 29 miles on the website. It's probably that or a little bit less of actual usable electric driving range. But with that, combined with the hydrogen, they're saying there's roughly 270 miles of actual driving range. But there's no better way than to prove that out than to get behind the wheel. So next, let's go ahead and take this thing for a drive.
All right, guys, here we are inside the Honda CR-V FCEV, and we're gonna go ahead and take this thing for a drive. So go ahead, foot on the brake, hit the power button there. Does the automatic seat adjustments for you, and yeah, it's a very interesting driving experience. It's very, very quiet. Essentially, it starts up and it's kind of like a BEV, right? There's no engine sounds. You don't hear anything even from the hydrogen, you know, system that's going on there either. So very, very interesting drive. So go ahead and put on my seatbelt. Now, one of the things before I even set off is I want to talk about the driving characteristics of this vehicle. So essentially you have this little E button here, this battery, and that lets you cycle through your powertrain options. So there's a separate toggle switch for your drive mode, but it's that little button there that kind of controls how the vehicle will drive. So it automatically defaults and starts on EV, and that shows up in the digital instrument cluster. There's also a little green EV icon and even an icon that says ready in green as well. Now, if you push it once, essentially there's a button that says save, which lets you kind of, you know, charge up and keep a certain ideal driving range set. You can also push it again, and that gives you the auto function. So now the vehicle is essentially going to cycle between what hydrogen you have in the car, plus how much electricity you have charged up in the battery. But again, if you push that button again, it goes back into the EV mode, which means as long as you have battery, it will do its best to just stay in pure EV mode. So that's what we're going to go ahead and take off with the drive. Now, separately from that, like I said, you have the drive modes, and we'll toggle through and tell you how they feel as we drive, but just before we take off. So essentially there's 4 driving modes. So you have a snow mode, right? Even though that this is 2-wheel drive only, the snow mode is going to be useful because it'll, you know, dictate, you know, how much power is being distributed to those front wheels to ensure you get the best traction possible. You switch up, there's an econ mode, which is obviously like the other Hondas and Acuras we've done on the channel. It's going to dial back the throttle response, adjust some of the climate, right, to give you maximum fuel efficiency. If you scroll up again, there's a normal driving mode, which is kind of the default mode. And then also, if you push up, you get into sport mode. There's actually a sport mode for this car, and we'll show you how that works as well. Now, if we toggle back down, here's what's interesting. So even if I go back into normal, now I have to go back to the battery and change it to EV, because that kind of toggles to the auto mode once you go into sport. And one of the other things, the last thing I'll say before we take off, is as you're driving, even in EV mode, if you're flooring it and you're wide open throttle and you're getting into it, at some point it may automatically switch into auto mode, recognizing that it needs to use some of the hydrogen in the car as well. Or if you're in sport mode and doing it, it'll do that as well. The interesting thing is, though, is once you've done that and you're taking off driving, it won't actually allow you to revert back to EV, even if you have battery charged up. In that instance, you're actually going to have to come to a stop, turn the vehicle off for a second, then turn the vehicle back on before it will go back into EV mode. My understanding of that is pretty simple. It's basically protecting the systems by doing that. So you kind of got to pay attention to that as well. So right now, I'm going to go ahead and push it in D on the gear selector, and we'll go ahead and take off here. So right off, it's super quiet, guys. You get a little bit of that kind of humming sound, which is the regulation to let people know that this silent vehicle is driving up near them. But other than that, man, this thing is whisper quiet. So I'm gonna go down through this parking structure, then we'll come back once I'm on the road. All right, here we are back on the road, and yeah, just as I was explaining as I was coming down, this thing is super quiet. The NVH in the vehicle, noise, vibration, harshness, how quiet the vehicle is also really, really good. You know, one of the things that really stands out to me is the moment I took off, the vehicle does have like a sense of heft to it. Like it feels heavier, not necessarily in a bad way. It just, you can tell that there's extra stuff in the car that's kind of, you know, weighing it down, but it almost gives it like this like kind of planted feel. It's really hard to explain, but it's definitely noticeable driving the car, even just through the parking structure there. One of the other things that I noticed is the weight of the steering wheel is definitely on the heavier side of things, I would say. I feel like it, you know, it probably changes a little bit as you change the drive modes, but even normal mode is much heavier than any of the other CRV models we've driven and had here on the channel. I think a lot of that has to do with that added weight I was just talking about. You know, you feel like they're kind of offsetting that by making the steering a little bit heavier to kind of, you know, balance that with the chassis. But again, it's not overly heavy and it's not a burden to use, but you definitely notice that difference. Now, one of the other things is I talked about the paddle shifters in the interior, but let's talk about how they work. If you're familiar with the CRV hybrids, which again, we have a few of those videos here on Drive Culture, essentially these are deceleration paddles, right? And just like the other CRV hybrids, essentially you have 4 levels of brake regen that you can control with these deceleration paddles, right? So as you're driving, you're gonna pull the minus paddle to add levels of regen, basically slow the vehicle down for you, or you're going to use the plus paddles to eliminate those regen levels and even get back to normal driving functions. So here we're going to set off and I'm going to show you how that works. Pretty interesting here. So as you're driving, just to pull the paddle gives you 2 down arrows on the first pull. Pull it again gives you 3. Pull it again, it gives you 4. So there's 4 levels of this, you know, brake regen system on this FCEV. Now, the thing is kind of just like the other CRV models, is it won't stay on permanently for you. So it's kind of in the instance when you want to just I'm coming to a stop sign here, so I'm going to go to full regen. It's not quite one pedal driving. It's not as aggressive as something like the Accord hybrid, which has 6 levels of regen, but essentially it does slow the vehicle down. And you'll notice it in the power meter in the digital instrument cluster that's also giving you energy back into the vehicle. So something interesting there. Now, you do have to get into the brakes a little bit there. Brakes feel pretty good, but one of the things that you're gonna have to get used to is that, yeah, essentially this is driving like an EV in almost all sense and purposes, and only, like I said earlier, when you really get into the acceleration is it actually going to kick into the hydrogen system. So let's see if we can get that to happen here. Didn't take much. I'm wide open throttle, and then if you heard that chime, what the vehicle did is it went from the EV driving mode to what they call the auto driving mode. And now you can almost hear some things going on inside, like maybe it's prepping, you know, the hydrogen system, but it's definitely noticeable once you do that. One of the other things now that we're going to try is that it's an auto. The vehicle feels significantly faster. Like, it wasn't slow in EV mode. It actually felt pretty quick, all things considered. But like when you have the auto function now, the vehicle feels, it's funny, I'm sitting here, this thing's pretty quick actually, and I'm not even in the sport mode, I'm in the normal driving mode. So what we'll do is, coming up here at this next light, I'm actually gonna take off from the stoplight in sport mode. So let's see how sport mode does in this vehicle. I'm gonna see if I can get to a full stop. Unsuspecting person next to me here in sport mode. Let's see what happens. I have a feeling this thing's pretty quick given how it felt driving in the e-auto mode. So there we go, wide open throttle, up to 100% power. And yeah, I mean, this thing is quick. it's not bad at all. And if you guys got the sound picked up on the microphone, it definitely has a lot of, you know, augmented sound, you know, built into that sport driving mode. It kind of has this whirring sound to it. It's kind of unique, or I don't know, it doesn't seem like it can be turned off. It's actually a part of the sport driving mode. But initially it was very interesting. Like, it was a very kind of slow start, but once it picked up speed, you can really feel the vehicle start to pick up speed, and it's not slow. I guess I didn't, you know how quick a hydrogen vehicle was going to be, but I think part of it is, you know, you also still have, you know, power from a very, very low RPM, given that you have the electrified powertrain built in here as well. So it's very, very interesting, and I think we'd like to learn more about this car. Maybe like to try to fill it up. We'll see if we can show that here in the video, just so you guys get some semblance of what it's like to actually fill up a hydrogen vehicle. But other than that, like I said, it's a very unique powertrain. So we'll go ahead and give it one last blast in sport mode here as I make this turn, and then, yeah, full throttle. You hear that sound? It's very interesting. It gets louder. It gets progressively louder. And again, we're doing pretty good speed here. So I'm going to back off now, and now use the deceleration paddles, which, like the other hybrid models, actually add an M next to the D, which means it's manual, and it'll actually keep the level of regen that you selected. So you got to be in sport mode for that to happen. So again, it's a very interesting powertrain. Let us know your guys' thoughts and comments down below. Are you interested in hydrogen vehicles? You know, this world's first plug-in hydrogen vehicle. Let us know if you want to see more of this content here on the channel. We're happy to bring it to you. And with that, we're going to go ahead and wrap things up.
All right, guys, that's a wrap. What did you think of the 2025 Honda CR-V FCEV? Is this something that you would actually consider going the way of hydrogen? Is it really the fuel of the future? Please let us know your guys' thoughts and comments down below. Obviously, this is a very special vehicle that's only available in very limited areas, even within the state of California. But the fact that you can actually use this as a, kind of short range BEV by charging the vehicle, is that exciting to you? Would you actually consider making the jump? Again, let us know your guys' thoughts and comments down below. And if you want to see other hydrogen or other kind of alternative fuel technology on the channel, let us know down below as well. We're happy to bring it to you. So with that, if you've joined us before, thank you so much. But if you're new to the channel, please be sure to click that bell to subscribe to come back for more. Thanks, and we'll see you at the next episode.